Okay, Alan, you're live. Okay,
Good
Alan,
evening,
you're
all, and
live.
welcome to Behind Closed Doors with Alan Merritt. And we're just going to carry on from last week when we were talking to the lovely Joanne Tinkerbell. She was talking about her story, and basically it was quite horrendous listening to Tinky talking about basically being groomed from a very, very young age. And from when she was 15, was it, Tink?
Yeah.
And her boyfriend, boyfriend, sorry about that. The guy that was holding her more almost captive, imprisoned in a room, would be a better word to say, I'd say, was 10 years her senior. And you ended up having several children, didn't you, Tink?
Yeah.
After a miscarriage, and I think it was start. Did it start in 1993? Was it?
94.
84, 1984.
93 into 94, really. Yeah. It was New Year's Eve.
Yeah, 93 was that when you had the courage to walk out, or what's 93? That was significant. Was that a birth of one of your children?
That was when his brother had died. Around when my nephew was born.
Anyway, let's get Tinky to talk about a little bit more about it, because I did write some notes, but my lovely wife's had a clear of the office kind of thing.
Oh, don't worry, Al. Just yeah.
And I did write some notes down, and I did write some things down, and I had it all down. But my wife likes to keep a clean house, and
Oh, I'm the same, Al. It'd be whizzed by now from last week.
yeah. And when my daughter comes, she turns and says, "What's all this mess? What's all this mess?" And I always get it in the neck. So, Tinky, if you want to carry on from last week, we also got lovely Sue and Jean watching in with us, and we might join with a chat with them in a bit. But I think we really want to try and get your story told tonight, if we can, Tinky, and concentrate on how you've coped, where you're going with this, because we've got guys helping us, like our Legal Eagles type of things, that know their stuff, and they're helping us big time. And I think yours is making some progress, is it not?
Yeah, well, it's like we've got a bit of a weight off our shoulders now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
We know that we're going at another angle to get a remedy, which is, what we've wanted from the beginning. Really, is justice for what we've gone through. Because really, it shouldn't be that too much to ask, should it? Really, no. Without sounding awful. But yeah, so. I was groomed. It started off in 1994. I'm not going to go too much over all what we spoke about last week, because we spent near enough an hour on 1 year. But to cut it short, that's when my grooming started. I wasn't going into school. I was basically at his parents' house in his bedroom. I was locked in there. I had a miscarriage when I was 15 at the time. My ex-partner was 25. I had a miscarriage while under their household, if you like. At certain points, doctors, medics should have reported things, but nobody really raised any alarm bells. The relationship went on for 19 years with four live births, and a lot of mental abuse throughout that time. And I just want to say, back when I was 15, my ex-partner, and I know that this sounds dead funny, he said to me, because we used to watch, the soaps in his bedroom, and Brookside was on. And do you remember when they buried that one in the back garden?
Oh yeah.
He said, these were his words. He said, and I believed him. I know it sounds silly now when I say it out loud. He said, but if you ever cheat on me, I'll bury you in the back garden. Well, I believed him.
Bloody hell.
Do you know what? I'm not laughing in that way. But on a serious note, in 1997, that's after. So I lost a baby. I had 2 live children. That 97 was the year that I had my daughter, and then in 98 my friend was murdered, who I went to school with, and she was actually chopped up and put round Southport. So looking back at the age that I was at, so I'd already experienced quite, do you know what I mean? My friend was chopped up and put round Southport. The person that did it, Mitchell Quay, he paraded around Southport as if he hadn't done anything. Obviously, his family and everyone knew. He even went on This Morning, you know, the programme and everything, saying I've not done anything. But it took the police 18 months to, you know, get him pulled in. And even then, it was only because he was meant to go. I was going to have to go to Crown Court about this as well, because I'd bumped into my friend a few months before she died. And I knew as soon as it come up on the news saying that she'd gone missing, saying she'd left her kids. Well, I knew she'd never leave her kids. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I knew he murdered her, because when I'd met her, she'd left him, but he must have got back. You know, somehow he's got around her. I don't know what, but you know. And then the nights happened where he's murdered her and chopped her up and put her around Southport.
Oh my God.
And paraded around like for 18 months. Lindsay Quay, she was beautiful. I went to school, high school with her. You know, she was a lovely girl. You know, and we'd had a similar upbringing as well. So, you know, what I'm trying to say is there's obviously a pattern in the water, isn't there, somewhere? Because there's lots of people getting abused at this, but it's still happening now, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
so,
absolutely, yeah.
So when I look back at thinking, well, why didn't I leave my ex-partner? Well, you know, my friend was chopped up and put round Southport.
My God. You know, when you would talk about it, Tinky, it's quite hard to believe that when you speak like you are now, you're so calm and you're so with things, to think that you went through all of that. It must have been horrendous to have been like, you didn't know any better. You didn't.
It's like very controlled environment, if you like, isn't it? I suppose. But I suppose from when you're a kid anyway, you know, when when you're in, well, or an institutional environment to a point, we all have our routines, don't we? You know, so I suppose
we went through that in the care system. Yeah, we it was kind of like almost a military operation, because a lot of practice were the same.
Yeah. So if you look at, so yours obviously is a lot more severe than what I've been through, but I've gone through like, I'm not going to call, how can I put it? Like being controlled by your parents, if you like, in a way, to then having another mass control person around you. I'm not saying me, you know, in a good way. Obviously, my parents try to control you, don't they? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Someone else being that person. So I've gone from having that comfort all the time around me to then another person doing it to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas, like, because, like, obviously for me with my abuse, you know, in a way, I wanted to be with him, but I didn't. Does that make sense? It's like a funny relationship.
There's nothing you can do, is there?
It's hard to like describe it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get totally what you're saying when you say it's hard to describe it, because what could you do? It's like if like me and Sue are talking about, and Jean are talking about Beechholme, as young children, you were controlled, literally controlled. They had the power over you. And I think when you stem back the years and go back even further, it was more controlling, in the sense when we was in large groups in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we didn't talk about sex and things like that. You didn't talk about lesbians and gays or stuff. That still was like a taboo subject. You didn't talk about things like that. And you was absolutely just like confined, almost like a prisoner.
Yeah. That you're right there, Alan. That's it. You know. Sorry, I was just thinking there was something else that I was going to say to you. Oh, and I babysat with him. You know, because I told you to be childcare as well when I was young.
Yeah.
I was doing my nursery nursing, and you know Neil Ruddock, I think he played for Liverpool. I babysat
Razor Ruddock.
I babysat for him, and my partner came with me.
Oh my God.
So, you know, there's plenty of people that could be witnesses.
Well, this is what it's difficult to get your head around it. It's so hard to think. We live in a system where the people that are out there supposed to be caring and looking after our welfare don't do it.
Well,
They're
yeah.
not fit for purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, we vote our politicians in an election, and basically they get in power on what they promise the people they're going to do for the country. But we've been in kind of like a stigma for such a long time where they just do not do what the public want. I mean, they're not representing the public as across the board, because the rich get richer, the poor get poorer.
Yeah, and
The
what I
divide is so great.
is they know that when they like say if a mother's without the child or the children are without the mother and the family, they know what damage it does do. So you know when you do start looking back over history, you think, why haven't they changed it? You know, so we are at a really special time right now at this moment, right in 2020, to get things sorted for the children, because it has never actually been remedied or resolved. And where I thought things were in place, you know, they obviously weren't in place. So if I just go back to, I don't really want to stay in like 1994 and on that part of things, but you know, you can obviously see that if you watch the interview from last week, you know, I was being questioned that my children weren't his, and you know, he had DNA. You know, there was a lot of this mind control.
You're trying to justify,
You know, and that continued right the way throughout. And you know, it took me 19 years to leave him. You know, and people might think, well, why didn't you just go, you know, sooner? But it's not as easy as that. And then when you have children involved in, you know, you want your children to have the best. And let's face it, a family is better off with two people at it than, do you know what I mean? I mean, two, you know, if you're working together and everything's well, it's better with two people, isn't it? Do you know? You know.
It's strange to say it, Tinky. It's almost like a fairy tale relationship, because you're kind of like playing a role as a young mother within a controlled and imprisoned environment. You're doing the best you can to basically to stay alive for everything that you think you need to be. I mean, it's just.
Well, I paid all the bills, so I couldn't ever save money up. So if I did want to try to do something, I never had any money there to be able to do that. So, you know, and if I knew that if I never went to work, because my job wasn't self-employed, mine was a regular boom, 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 you're getting it every month type thing. You know, I couldn't have a day, you know, I couldn't afford to have time off, you know, when I work my nights and stuff, because obviously you need the money. I mean, thankfully, a couple of the places I did work, you did get your sick pay, but that's not in every place. You know yourself, it's, you know, it's not always that easy, is it?
No,
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 if you put the
it's
hours
very,
in,
very difficult. I mean,
your mortgage isn't getting paid, is it? Of course, I lived in that house from when I was a baby, so you know, and then I brought my children up there, so you know, just to get rid of all that, you know, it's a lot of emotional pulls to somebody as well. Do you know what I mean?
Their instinct as well. You've got to survive, and you've got to make sure your children's welfare as well. But the circumstances to it, it's like so crazy mixed up, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's strange. It's so strange. It's horrible. But you see, I mean, you're a mother. You gave birth to them kids, so you're not going to neglect them.
No, you see, what I think it was when I had me third son, he just didn't want to know him. So it's quite. So I've had him accuse me of the others of not being his, and then didn't want to know one. Then accused him of not being his as well. We might as well throw that one in the mix. Go on holidays, which should have been, like you say, the ideal. Everything should have been lovely, lovely. No, no, no. He'd rather go off with other members of his family and not spend time with the, you know, because you know a little one, when the 2 and 3, if you take them on holiday, gee whiz, you need a backup of energy, mate. I'm telling you, their energy levels don't stop, do they? You know what I'm saying? And if you can't make a little one at that age sit still and sit down, I'm sorry, but I'm not for that. You know, they need to run round and be free. I'm not, you know, you don't need to be in a cage. Do you get me? The kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, there was that, and there was the fact I stayed in my other son's room for like 10 months, you know, and there was a build up of things, but again, it was trying to find the ways to get out. Just don't know how to do it when you're tied in with everything that's in you. Do you know what I mean? And then I think I tried to leave him a few times in between that, and then my daughter came along, and again I left him, and not long really after I had my daughter. I think that was just the final pull of him accusing her of not being his, and it was just the same rigmarole. Do you see me? And I think because he'd done it so much, I don't know, you know, I just had enough. I just had enough of everything, and like I said, we'd been out at one of my family's birthdays and things like that, and then he started accusing me of who I'd been with, and you know, getting me to go and ask my older child. And I just thought, why am I putting up with this? You know, why am I putting up with this controlling person around me? He wanted me to, my house was getting sold. I'd got a new job at the hospital. So I would, you know, and then he wanted me to get a bigger mortgage. So then I'd have to be working more hours. So I wouldn't be seeing my children as much. And I'm like, no, you know.
I remember you saying about that last week, because you was actually working your socks off at one stage.
Oh, well, you can ask anybody that, even from wherever I've lived, they'll tell you, well, me and my kids, I did not stop from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed. Do you know what I mean? And that wasn't because, you know, I love looking after my kids. I love it. That is who I am. Do you know what I mean? And he knew that, and he knew how much I love looking after my kids, and he knew what a good mum I was to my kids. Do you know what I mean? And he knew that every breath I made was for my kids. I've never been one for, you know, I'm not a gossip. I'm not interested in who's banging who down the road or who's going off with whatever. I couldn't give a flying fuck. I'm sorry to say that. All what I was interested in is my kids. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, if anybody ever came to me for help, my door would be there open. But I've never been one to be interested in idle gossip. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no. You've actually, that's shone through your whole life, where I mean, into this day, very day, you've got a really good bond with your kids and your grandkids,
Yeah.
and it's hard to believe that you went through what you went through, uh, and yet you've got so
And
much love and affection for your family.
yeah, I'm not saying I'm perfect, you know, like anything. We've all had to learn, you know, we've all had to learn things. I remember when I had my son Jordan, and I was living, obviously my mum was went back home to my mum then, and I remember she went to my husband's for the weekend, and you know, I can remember ringing and saying, Mum, I can't cook me tea and feed the baby because when I went to cook me tea, he woke up, you know. But obviously the older you get, these things, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's me like, Mum, quick, come home.
Yeah.
But you know, he was only a few weeks old, and I didn't know how to manage it all. You know, but that's part and parcel. That was nothing. Do you know what I mean? But from that, you know, I've learned. Oh yeah, right. We'll make sure that he's had his. And then you start thinking about how you do things, don't you? You know,
Your
if
whole living environment was weird. It seems strange, like, because he used to lock you in that one room, didn't he?
well, I mean, what how I'd put it, Alan, is you know, to a point. Obviously, I'm sure if I wanted to get out, I could get out. But it's
Yeah.
about control that's over you. Do you know what I mean? And when someone's keeping you in this loop and don't tell anybody, and I suppose when you're at that age and you're like, oh, don't tell anybody, you're like, well, I was a kid, and I was acting like a kid because I was a kid. You know, and that's how they keep it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So you're not telling anybody.
How
But
can
then
you be so strong though? I mean, I find it really hard talking to you and listening to you and looking at you, and you've got a great mindset.
yeah,
I don't know where that comes from.
I don't know about that, but you know, I just when I did get the courage to leave him, I knew that he'd start to play games, which that was obviously maybe one of the things that maybe why I didn't, because I knew how hard it'd be. And if I had wrote a prophecy back when I left him about what has happened in this chunk of section of my life now, I'd have got it word on to the T to everything that's happened at every point. Do you know what I mean? But I can honestly say I didn't realise how bad the system was. To add on top of his controlling behaviour. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I mean, I get exactly where you're coming from. Because when I was like leaving Beechholme and being put in the outside world when I was like sort of 15, 16, yeah, you was kind of like growing up, but you're still a little boy. You're still very immature, and it was the great big world outside was very, very big.
yeah,
And then being put in an outside world, and then sort of like, because they were responsible for you whilst you was in care, and that responsibility at the end of the day is what they're trying to deny. And they've always done something where yes, they placed you in under court orders into care, right? The records are out there. They're there to prove it. I mean, we've got stuff there that totally categorically equals what we try to say. And but you try going to social services, and I was trying to go to my welfare. We used to call them CCOs in my day, childcare officers, and you used to go to them and talk to them, and I didn't want to know. I didn't
no,
job trying to see mine, and I was sleeping outside on the streets of a place called Cobb's Hall on the Fulham Palace Road. Now that's where my welfare officer was, trying to get a place to live. They didn't want to know when I was put in a hostel from Beechholme, and then I had some. My first 25 years were terrible. I was so lost, so down, so distraught.
I can imagine.
I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was just like.
Totally imagine you've been dragged through this system and then just basically spat out and gone fend for yourself.
Yeah, well said.
And you know what? I mean, thankfully, so this is, I'm glad that we're having these conversations, because I'm like on the flip side of some things, but then, so I have had my mum there all the time. So, but do you know what? If I hadn't of, I don't know how I would have managed. So, you know, let me take my hat off to you all, because I have had that there. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, it must be horrendous. You know, I've gone through my side of it, but I've had my little bit of my mum there. Do you know what I mean? And that has just meant so much. You know,
I think that makes a well said, Tinky, because that plays quite a strong role in any kind of bondage with not only yourself and your mother, but your children and you as a mother in itself. Because I never had that. We didn't know what love and affection was. We were loveless children.
yeah,
And that might sound strange to some people to comprehend.
yeah,
But
no,
believe you me, we didn't have nothing like that.
no,
We're actually, it's hard to say that. I will honestly say we had nothing as children, absolutely nothing. Oh, I never had nothing as children. Well, I mean, I don't know what happened. Anything could have happened to me from the ages of 1 to the time I went into Beechholme, and 4 or 5 kids' homes later, I was pushed from pillar to post. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. I was so mixed up, and so I just had to go with the flow. It was like someone was grabbing hold of me by the scruff of the neck and just dragging me around all over the place.
Well, you feel like you're lost, don't you? Like you're just falling and floating.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I say, I can't remember too much of what happened to me as a young child in my 2, 3, 4 years of age. If people remember, they got a fantastic memory, but anything could have happened to me. I mean, if I was abused in that age, I don't know. I don't remember it. I just remember certain places, certain things. It was like a kind of routine that we had to go through. You know, it was like what the council don't say is that they have these kind of like holding pens. You know, it almost reminds me of a cattle market. You're put into a certain place before you're dispatched somewhere else, or a placement's found for you in a home. And there was places like Oakley Street in Chelsea, which was a holding pen where they sent children to before they dispatched you. But it got you away from Ellsfield House. Now, Ellsfield House was, I know, an abusive place because people have said it was an abusive place. I was in Ellsfield House, I know that for a fact. And then I remember, I'm sure, that I went to Shirley Oaks. It might have only been part of the journey, but it might have only been a couple of hours. It might have been 1 or 2, or it might have been 2 days. It might have been less than a week. I don't know. But I remember going into a place that was very, very kind of like Beechholme, very, very green, and all the houses were spread out. And it was almost like, I'm sure, a circle, complete circle, doing a complete circle. And the only thing I remember of that was a place called the Willows, or something called the Willows. But I was a very young age. I mean, I didn't know too much about it. But then I was put into Beechholme, you know, and I was in Beechholme from 6 till right through to the time I left. So basically, years.
And you know, like your records, they've changed things, they've docked things out, moved dates. So, you know, and not just that, right? Like when you've got a parent who's looking after you, who's a loving parent that's looking after you, and I don't mean an abusive parent, you know, like when you're a loving parent, your worst nightmare is having someone look after your child who is completely not that and not
Yeah.
knowing what they do. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what made it also difficult for us as children, or for me as a child, was kind of like for the first couple of years, I think I had a woman called Miss Lazenby was my CCO, my childcare officer or welfare officer, and then after a little while, it kind of like she left, and it was like they gave you one month, and then they gave you another one another month, and then within 6 months you could have 2 or 3. And why would I confine in speaking to somebody in, because we used to have this little office that we used to go into in the house in Beechholme. The staff had their own like little office, and it was like a little red book that was supposed to be in a record book where everything was supposed to be written down. And all those record books seemed to
Yeah.
have disappeared, got lost in floods or fires, or the contractors destroyed them in the demolition of building. And that tells everything, because it would have been in the house parents' handwriting, whereas the reports I have are all in the council's writing. And even to that, like you said, stuff's been redacted, taken out. People's signatures have been covered over to give them like anonymity where they're not known.
Do you know what it reminds me of? The social work services things and things like that. You know what I'm just thinking of? You know, like when they just give dogs willy-nilly out to people and go, yeah, you just look after them, and they haven't got a clue whether they can look after the dog or not. I don't mean this awful. Do you know
No,
what I mean? This is like the pop show that they're taking with children's lives.
it's a good analogy because in some respects it fits.
Yeah. It's awful.
And it's very, very true, because like I was in, because we had to go, it was so weird, it was so cruel, and yet when these welfare officers come, it was like a false pretense, like the best china came out, I think, or
Yeah.
we used to have
I get
saucers and these little green cups. I'm sure they were little green cups and little green saucers, and they used to come out. Uh, well, most of the time, I think we had beakers. I'm not too sure, but it was weird because I remember these green green cups and that.
Is that your little thing?
I'm just going to have a look, Susan. There's another person in. I'm just going to.
Okay, that was me, Alan, switching to my mobile.
Okay, sorry.
Everything okay?
Yeah,
carry on.
sorry. Yeah, and it was like we was put in the office room, and it was very, very small. But I always remember there was like a coal fire in this office, and it used to be lovely and warm, and it was probably the warmest place in the actual house.
Yeah.
We used to go in there, and I think the older we got, and as we grew up and changed different houses, some of the houses have different rules and regulations, and some of the house cottages, they let you go into the staff room, or in cold winter nights, we all cuddled up on the floor, whether the staff were sitting on chairs and we were sitting on the floor, but we was all snug, cozy and warm. And but in Laburnum, it was so harsh and cruel. It was a very, very cruel cottage for me, and so you know, you was in this room, and the pretense was unbelievable. There was, you know, Alan seems to have issues or something like that, and I couldn't say anything, because if I said anything, I would have got a whack. I would have got hit.
It's like they create this whole circle of abuse, isn't it?
They
know
control you. You couldn't say anything. We weren't allowed to say anything. We weren't allowed to do anything. You know, like a lot of people say that they ran away. I ran away 3 times. I'm sure I did, from Beechholme. And on one occasion, I ended up going to the police about what happened to me in Laburnum and that. And I was dragged before the superintendent and was told very sternly that in the corner was a cane that Mr. Banner, Jeffrey Banner, used to use on the kids. And he turned around and said to me, little boys like you get sent away. And liars like you, making out that if I didn't toe the line, or if I didn't do what they were subjecting me to do, I was gone. I was history. I was toast. I was either shipped out, whether it had been to another country, whether it had been to Stanford. The threat of Stanford, I think Stanford House was like an approved school type of thing in my birth borough, Hammersmith or Golden Road somewhere.
Yeah.
And they kept on using that against me. And that was quite frightening, because people said you don't want to go there, because they heard it was a horrific place, because I think some of their siblings had gone there, or their older brothers had gone there, and they'd heard from them one way or the other, or through a parent or something, and it wasn't good.
Yeah. It's awful.
So now, you know, this is your story really, so we're really talking about you rather than myself.
Oh,
I mean,
all right, Al. Yeah, so what was I going to say? I was going to say something to
so
you.
you were talking about social services.
Yeah,
That's
so when I left my ex-partner, obviously you'd think that, you know, I knew that he'd play these games. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, yeah, I know it.
He was already playing mind games with the kids, you know, already. He was calling me son his golden child, you know. I think he'd pushed me down the stairs and thought he killed me at the bottom as well, in between my son and my daughter, the younger two.
Oh, God.
No, there was that had happened as well. So there was a lot building up to when I did leave him in the end, you know.
Did you suffer much trauma, like in sexual abuse and beatings and stuff like that from him?
No, I wouldn't say it that way. It was just more when I was younger. There was the sexual abuse where he was using me, I'd say more like his little sex toy, really. And then I suppose as the years went on, there were some times where didn't have it, Al, because you know what I mean? I just, you know, and that's what, yeah. So really, that's what I want to talk about. So I didn't really. There was points where I didn't really have it a lot with him as the years went on. I just didn't want it with him.
Yeah, that's understandable. You wasn't in a relationship. You was captive to a relationship.
Yeah. So really, this is a big thing that I want to speak about. Really, me and my ex-partner didn't drink a lot as such. Do you know what I mean? While we were bringing our kids up, my mum wasn't a big drinker. Now his family were the drinkers, I'd say, more than. Do you know what I mean? His sister and that liked to a lot of it, you know, liked to drink, and I believe her daughter has done in the, you know, she's grown up now, she's settled down, but you know, I'm not saying any more on that. But when we did used to have a drink, it'd be say maybe at Christmas or, you know, maybe New Year or something like that. It was only like say once or twice a fucking year, you know. But that's when he would obviously, you know, do the deed, if you like. So when I've left him, and that's obviously started from when I was younger as well, do you know what I mean, in a way. So when I've left him, you know, he's left a pattern in my brain. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's like an imprint.
Yeah. So no, but I mean, this might sound awful, really, mightn't it? So anyway, no, I'll just go back to when. No, but what I want to try and say is like as well, when you've been with someone and they've looked after you. So say even when you've had a drink. So when I've left my ex-partner, I've gone out and had a drink with my friends. Had too much to drink because I don't really drink a lot anyway. Do you know what I mean? But there was a funny instant. I went back home to my house what had just been sold.
You went home there?
Yeah, I went back to my house that had been sold. Right, fell through the door virtually. Yeah, fell through it. Don't forget, I'd lived there all my life.
Yeah. That must have been weird. Yeah, well, you didn't know anywhere else, did you?
No, I'd gone out with my mate who lived local round the corner. But it was a funny thing. She'd gone in the chippy, but then we were in a taxi, and then we said, "Oh, can you pull in the chippy?" So we both went in the chippy, but I got in the taxi. Now instead of the fella fucking waiting for me mate, he didn't. And he said to me, "Oh, where you going?" Well, I just said my old address because that's all what I knew.
Oh my
But
God.
when I went to get out the taxi, I didn't have any money on me or anything because it was all in my mate because he fucking left her in the chippy, the dickhead.
But having said what we said, the area that you actually live was quite a tough area anyway, and to this day, it's still quite a tough area, isn't it?
Well, no, I wouldn't say like a tough area. Do you know what? Everyone just knew everyone, and everyone was dead nice and looked out for each other. I wouldn't say no one was like, you know. But no, if there was, put it one way, right? If there was a nonce on the estate, there'd be no more nonces on the estate, right? Everything else ticked over fine. Any kids, no kids to be bullied or anything like that. You know, it wasn't like, pass go when you come in and or anything. It was just everyone was respectful to each other. And, no one really bullies each other, as such. Not, I was never bullied. I don't think my sisters were as such. Maybe the older one might have been, but she had big problems on her shoulders, like I told you.
So what happened then when it comes to now, at some stage, you've got to go to either social services or you've got to go to the police or you've got to go somewhere and talk to them. How did your case come about and what happened?
So anyway, ex-partner, I've gone to live with my mum. So I live a year at my mum's house in another town. Yeah. I can see my ex-partner playing games, etc., etc. When we left each other, when I left, I had to go to another town because my house was getting sold. So because my son had his last year in high school, I said, obviously, you can come up to your nan's, but what do you want to do? Do you want to finish your school? And obviously the dad was staying in Southport. So he said he wanted to finish off at school. So my ex-partner, and get this, when I left him, my ex-partner came and lived at my mum's anyway for a bit.
And there's nothing you could do. What about your folks?
What kind of people we are.
So hang on. One stage, is this while you're, because did your mum die?
No,
was
no.
Not your mother died. That was your dad. You left the house, weren't you?
Yeah.
You was in the house.
So my house was getting sold.
Yeah.
I've gone to my mum's, but obviously the kid's dad needs to get out of the house that's getting sold. So he ends up coming to my mum's so me and all the kids are still together. So we're still together for a bit. So it takes him a few months to sort out a house and everything. So he gets a house. So my mum had been cooking all his meals and all that, trying to help him, because obviously he's got my kids here. I'm not just going to let him go in any shithole with my kids. You get me?
Yeah.
So he got a house sorted. And then I thought that we could work between the two of us, both see the kids and, obviously both find out what the kids are doing at school. Like you would kind of, if you were together, but not together. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying you need to know everything that everyone's, doing, but I want to know what my kids are doing. I don't want to know what he's doing, but I want to know what my kids are doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you'd vice versa, wouldn't you? Because I had two and he had two. So the older two were with him and the younger two were with me, yeah?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So that year, he kept not telling me, when my daughter was coming home from school, he wasn't, telling me what my oldest son has been an angel. I've never had no mind with him. He just keeps his head down and does what he does. God bless him. He's a little angel, and I think he suffers with a lot of mental, he's suffered through this. Do you know what I mean? Through everything. But my daughter, on the other hand, wasn't like my son. Do you get me? No.
Yeah.
She's got a streak in her. I'm not saying a bad streak, but she just wanted to do what all the other teenagers were doing. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, my older son, he just wasn't interested. He just wanted to play his game. That was it. Play his game, watch the football, and see his brothers and sisters. That was it. And the dog. Do you know what I mean? That's just me. And his few little mates that he just liked to see him now and again.
How did this play out? How did this play out with the kids? Because I know they're very young age, and with a very young age, and that's like you say, two are with him and two are with you, and two, but did they get any idea that there was something there, or you know, it must have been strange for them. 'Cause it's
Oh
not,
God, yeah, can you imagine it? Yeah, must be awful for them. And this is what I mean, you know, especially the older children who've had this safe, secure family net, and you know, this look, and the younger too, they've got this, because I will, you know, I won't slag people off where I don't need to be, or what I'm saying is the truth's the truth. My ex-partner adores them kids, and I don't care what anybody says. He does. He loves them like I love them. So can you imagine two bowels of love coming together? Who's going to win?
yeah.
And that's happened, really. So as much as I love them, like, and you're seeing it out there as well, he loves them like that.
A tug of love.
But yeah, he's stopped them from seeing me completely now for the, you know, one of them at the moment for the last 5 years, and that's because of this hatred towards me. Because if as long as I'm not seeing them kids, he thinks he's winning a game. This is a game to him. Do you know what I mean?
It's like he's controlled you most of your life.
Oh,
well, yeah, because you didn't know anything else or anything other. You've gone from a child to a woman, being controlled, and to this day, he's still trying to control you in what, your 40s? He must be about 40 now.
Yeah, 42 this year, yeah. Coming up in a few weeks.
I mean, that's a long, long time. I mean,
it is.
You know, when we talk about what happened to us as children, and then we've gone on to our adult lives, and then we make our bed as we go, and we have to lie in it. It's simple as that. You know, you get to that crossroads in life, and you go one way or the other. And if you choose to go the other way, there's no coming back, and it's not very easy. I know, and I suffered for a long time. And I'll always say this: the best thing that happened to me is when I met my wife.
Oh.
Because if I hadn't met my wife, I think I would have gone the other way. Definitely gone the other way. Because I've never been academically clever. I've never been a clever guy. I've never been astute in the sense that I've been streetwise. The only university I've ever been to is the University of Life.
me too.
And that's what's carried me along. You know, I've gone on a crest of a wave. And you just have to go with the flow.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think because my mum had always spoken about me, her dad, you know, he was in the First World War. And, you know, when she was growing up as a kid, she had to go outside to use the toilet. And these things stuck in my mind. And, you know, I knew in a way how lucky I was. Do you know what I mean? With some things. And when I was a kid, I used to pray for the Pakistani kids who were getting married at however old they were. I didn't realise it was going on. And I used to pray for the Africans who didn't have water, you know, because I used to think, what a horrible world we live in. I was mortified as a kid. But unbeknown, all this horrible other stuff was going on.
Yeah, it's like when we were children, like when I was in Beechholme and I used to go home at weekends, like I used to let me go home at weekends to my mother's house because she had a flat, and she got married again because my dad died when I was in Beechholme when I was 10 years of age. But you know, he was beating me with a leather belt at 4 or 5 years of age from respite care, being taken backwards and forwards to children's homes from home to home, and you know, I was being beaten by my own father. And then when I was growing up in Beechholme, my stepfather, he used to I saw him hit my mother over the head with a glass bottle. And he was very abusive. And another time she took an overdose. And I can remember her frothing at the mouth. All this foam was coming out of her mouth, where she'd been drinking quarts of Guinness. And I thought it was the Guinness that was frothing, but it was she'd taken an overdose of tablets. More than one occasion, she tried to kill herself. And you're living with that as well.
Yeah, I've tried to commit suicide all sorts through this because of all the trauma and all the stress. Do you know what I mean? And what my thing is my ex-partner knew the trauma and the stress that it caused me not seeing my children. Do you know what I mean? And that is, you know, not a very nice thing to know, that someone knows what they're purposely doing, you know. Yeah, so I'd gone to me, so I'd gone to my old house anyway. She called the police, the woman, right? Anyway, so the police came for me, and I was like, listen, and once I explained the story, but then they were like saying to me, you know, they were going to charge me. I was like, what for? He only knocked on the door and I fucking fell in because she opened it. I didn't know where the fuck I was. Do you get me? I'm not
Yeah.
making myself either, but you know, now when I know what I know now about the system, do you know what I mean? I'd look at things a bit differently. So they made me go to court. Well, I felt dead bad. I'd never been involved with the police before in my life or anything, never been in trouble. Do you know what I mean? And I felt like I was this bad pit. And then my ex-partner's in my ear saying, oh, look at you. You can't even cope on your own, can you? You know, don't forget, I'm still going through all this abuse of him all these years. You're fat, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, you're the other, you shit mum, just goes on and fucking on. Do you know what I mean? And then, of course, he's saying that. Well, I start thinking, well, I can't cope on my own. Do you know what I mean? Perhaps I have made a big mistake. What am I doing? But I hadn't made a mistake. I was right all along, you know, and the system's wrong, the way they're treating people. And, I'm not justifying myself for going out and having a drink because I didn't actually drink a lot, and I don't really drink a lot now. I think I can only take about 2 or 3 drinks, you know what I mean? And that's it. I'm fucking gone out. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So going out with my mate, they're used to drinking. They go out, you know, quite a lot. I wasn't used to going out drinking.
Yeah.
And they got me them fucking Jaeger bombs, is it? Well, I've never had a fucking Jaeger bomb.
Yeah. Yeah. Knocked straight out.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, you know, all what I said to the taxi driver was take me home, and he only went home and fucking fell in my old house. I'd only been moved out about 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Oh my God.
But anyway, so that was the start of me feeling like really bad about myself and everything. And then I moved back to Southport, but in between this, my
Give us an
ex-partner,
idea of what age you are now, Tink.
about 35,
You're 35 now.
about that, yeah. So my ex-partner's then playing games like saying, oh, we'll have the kids, he's not having the kids, wanting to know what I'm doing, wanting to know what I'm not doing. You know, just fucking trying to be the biggest pain in my life, really. Anyway, I managed to get a house back in where I lived. So we got a house back in Ainsdale. My son had been in school for a year up at my mum's end, so I managed to get him so he could do the last week in the school. He'd already been to that school anyway for a couple of years, so he did a year at my mum's, and then I put him back in his old school, but he managed to do a week before the summer holidays and then start his school year back up with everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't want him to be moving up. You know, I thought if we're going to be at my mum's, he's going to have to do this full year there. I'm not, you know, oh, you can have like 2-3 months off while I find a house. I thought it was best staying in a routine, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? And the little one, she was in nursery and loving it, and then we moved back up here. Well, of course, my ex-partner's playing all games. My daughter's running off the rails. I'm not saying she was like off the rails as in bad, but not what I wanted to be going on. Does that make sense? He wasn't checking that, you know, what she was eating for a tea, and, you know, she was going off out with the mates, didn't know where she was going, what they were doing. You know, well, I'm not saying they were bad, they were just doing what kids do. But, you know, I know things, and, you know, I knew what my ex-partner had done to me at 15. So if he thought that I was fucking shy to what goes on, I'm clearly not, am I? Do you know what I mean?
But didn't social services come to you and sit down with you and actually talk about what your kids were doing and how it would kind of like, or did you have to go through a kind of lie, or did you have to live a lie?
What do you mean?
With social services and tell them, because did you not have any dealings with them?
Social services have never been involved, Al. They're not, never been involved.
Never been involved, never.
Yeah. Not up until where I get up to.
Oh my
when
God.
I'll tell you when I get there.
Oh my God. So
So
you've got through all these years without anything other than him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
You've been imprisoned. You've been locked into rooms until in the end, you don't know. It's so weird because it's just hard to believe that nobody ever noticed anything.
Well, I have got a few police logs and that as well, and I went to a solicitor's in 2009, left diaries of abuse with her, and then in 2013, when I did eventually leave him, my house was getting sold. I come back to my hometown. This is then going into 2014. So yeah, the Christmas going into 2013, that was when he started playing mind games. I booked a holiday for me and my kids to Tunisia. We were going to go away. Obviously that thing had happened with the police, blah, blah, blah. But I was moving forward. He was trying to play with me head to get me to go back, but there was no way I was going back. I was up at my mum's. No, sorry, I was popping, seeing my friends and, you know, just trying to move on with my life a bit, but he didn't want me to move on with my life. He still kept playing games, not telling me about my older kids, not letting me know about what their own work, what they were doing, where they were. If he was going to bring them, he'd only bring them if he could come for his tea as well. Does that make sense? Well, you know, I wanted to see my kids, not him. But, you know, then it got to a point where he was virtually then coming around my house again all the fucking time. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, hey, hang on a minute, mate, back off. Well, then that's when he changed, you see. He knew I wasn't going back. So what was he going to do? Start on my kids even more then. So, yeah, the Christmas, so the New Year, yeah. So all the kids stay with me apart from my older son, New Year's Eve, yeah? Now, if I'm such a bad person and a fucking this, that and the other, why would you leave your kids with me on New Year's Eve? You wouldn't, would you? You'd have your kids with you. Do you know what I'm saying, don't you?
Yeah, he's controlled you so much, he's even using your own kids against you.
Yeah, yeah. And then my daughter was with my daughter. So it was my daughter and my sister's daughter were, my daughter was staying with me, but then my daughter sprung it on me that my sister's daughter was coming as well. Does that make sense?
Ish.
Yeah, so she ended up staying with us. So we'd gone to my friends. We were at my friends for a party. We were staying there overnight. You know, just a nice family thing. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'd gone to put my little into bed to get her to sleep because obviously it was coming, you know, everyone singing Happy New Year and what have you, and she was tired. So I was getting her to sleep with Peppa Pig upstairs, and I told my daughter Ashley, not my daughter Ashley, I told my niece, my sister's daughter, I said, don't go anywhere, you're staying here now. Do you know what I mean? That's using. Well, when I come back down from putting my daughter to sleep, Nicole, my sister's daughter had gone with my daughter, yeah? So I'm ringing him, where are you, where are you? Can't get hold of him because, of course, it's cracking New Year, innit? Well,
oh my God.
Yeah, so then I'm ringing her dad going, well, can you get hold of her? Oh, you can't even look after your own daughter, you know, trying to blame it all on me. I said, listen, it's not my bloody fault that they've gone off. I said, kids do what they're going to do, don't they? Do you know what I'm saying? Anyway.
Yeah, you have to watch them all the time.
An hour or so goes, my daughter shows up, and then she's all upset saying that my niece was with somebody. She said she must have had a drink and she tried to get my daughter. So I was like, oh, for frigging hell. So then I'm having to go and look for another teenager. So now I'm seeing a bigger pattern going on. So now I know someone's sleep. You know what I mean? I know something's going on there, don't I? And then I find out as the weeks and months go on, who's doing what. And I try and report this. And what do they do? Nothing. But that's another thing in itself. So
it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that.
So I've got this going on with him as well. And then he plays all mind games with me and all this, and then trying to blame me, you know, and everything else in. And then it was building up to it was a few days after New Year, yeah. It kept the kids longer than what he should have had them, or all this bloody mind game shit going on. Anyway, one night it was in mine, and he should have brought the kids back, say whatever time, say 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever it was, but he didn't. He brought them back at 8 o'clock, left them at the end of the road with a bag and just let them walk in, you know. The little one was only 3 at the time, and you know the other one was about 5 or 6, something like that. And I was like, for fuck, you know what I mean? For fuck's sake, I've had enough of this. Anyway, my sister was there, and this is my other sister and her daughter, because I've got 2 sisters. And so they were at mine, and then my ex, and then that was it. My son, he was playing mind games with my son. So my son had said, my dad said to me, I can go to my dad's house, you know, whenever I want to go, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, well, you can't just go, you know. I said, you have set days that you go, you know, trying to speak to him, explain. No, my dad said. So I thought, right, okay, try and get hold of him, trying to get hold of his dad. Eventually he gets hold of him after my son, you know, because he was, you know, couldn't deal with the emotions. Because don't forget, like you've just said, Alan, he's gone from a loving family to all this going on. And doesn't know how to cope with it. Of course, he wants his mum and dad back together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then he's got someone playing bloody games on one side. So of course he's kicking off because he wants to go to his dad's now. Because you know what kids are like. You know what I mean? They want to
They're
be.
easily influenced, and doesn't take a lot to sway in one way or the other.
And of course, you know, we were buying stuff all the time for him. But anyway, so I got hold of him, and then I got this, you know, smarmy comment. I said he could come if I'm not busy or I'm not working. I said, well, a kid doesn't know when you're fucking busy or working, does he? I said, if you say to a kid, you can come to my house whenever you want, that means they can come to your house whenever they fucking want. Do you get me? You're talking to a child. That's how children think. If they don't understand, well, if I'm busy or working, you can come tomorrow, you can come, you know what I mean? If you say now, they mean now, don't they?
It's just, I can't believe that you stayed sane through it all.
And then, right, so anyway, so the night goes on, and he pissed me fucking right off, all these text messages, and he sent me one saying, oh, well, your kids hate you. And I thought, no, because you're trying to twist every fucker against me because the games you're playing and what you're doing. And I thought, and I've fucking had enough of your games, mate. I've had enough of them now. So I did. I put my kids in the car, drove to his house. He wasn't in the house, by the way, looking after me kids. He was out. So I put the younger two in the house. I said, you two stay there. My daughter was in the front room. I said, you're fucking coming to my house. I went upstairs to my son and I went, and you're fucking coming home. Because I've gone there in the intention of getting all my 4 fucking kids together and having all my 4 fucking kids under one roof and not having that bastard play any more fucking mind games with any one of their fucking precious little heads. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd had enough. Because I had had enough. And then he's not there at this point. So it comes downstairs and then it goes out because he lived in like this cul-de-sac. So I went out in the cul-de-sac and then next minute he pops up down the street. So I said, I'm fucking sick. I did swear, I'll be honest with you. I said, I'm fucking sick of it. I said, playing fucking games with my fucking kids. I said, you don't even know what the fuck's going on with your daughter. Anyone could be fucking sleeping with her, doing whatever with her. Do you know what I mean? You don't fucking know. I said, I've got one son just at Subway because you can't be arsed fucking cooking. I said, and now you're playing with me fucking little kids' heads. Do you know what I mean? I said, enough is he fucking enough now. And he didn't like it. He didn't like it that I'd stuck up for myself, you see. And then I went back in his house. He had this little front room. And I went to go out to have a ciggy. He floored me to the floor and tried to murder me, put his hands around my neck. I was kicking me boots that hard to split them. Do you know what I mean? Then the next minute, the busies arrived. Oh, and who did he fucking arrest? Me. I said, you fucking mind? He's just tried to murder me. Oh, no. Did they speak to my children? Did they speak to my children at that point? No, they did jack shit. Nothing. And you got arrested me. And then what did they try and get me out for a drink drive? I said, what? I said, for a fucking drink he's just given me. I said, yeah, clever innit? Hey, knows what he's fucking doing, this one.
You're right.
Was fuming. So anyway, so they put me in the fucking cells for the night and I'm saying to him, hey, he's fucking tried to murder me, you cheap bastards. Got all bruises all around me, all marks around me neck. I said, is this how fucking police treat people? Really, is it? You know what I mean? But I think because of that incident where I went home, I think they just had me branded, love. Do you know where they just brand you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's what happened to me. I got branded and they didn't fucking know me, unbeknown to them. So, so anyway, and then because no one was listening to what was going on and I'm telling them all what they've done to me and I'm telling him he's abused me and he's abusing me kids and no one's listening to me. So I end up going to, so my auntie said to me, if you go to the hospital in the morning, you might get someone to speak to from the mental health. So we did all that, goes there. Then they're trying to say, then my ex-partner tried to say, I was going to kill my kids. I said, listen, right, I was going to kill my fucking kids, yeah. I'd have fucking killed them without fucking telling anyone. Do you get me?
Yeah.
I'm not funny. You know, when people are at a point to doing things like that, they don't tell anyone, love. There's no telling people. They just go and fucking do it. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So I said, what beggar bullshit's this coming from his mouth, is it? Do you know what I'm saying? So anyway, we had this thing where I was going to go and speak to the people at the Esker Centre for a week, go back to his house, bath my kids, put him to bed, and then I'd do the same thing for a week and then the kids would be returned to me, yeah?
Yeah.
I did that. Went to his house every day, blah, 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 bath my kids, put them to bed. Well, who's he seeing? Who's he controlling again? Me, innit? In my life, knowing what I'm doing. Now he's even fucking knowing getting me to speak to a doctor, going back to his house to bath my kids, sort them all out, and then go to my mum's. Because I'm not well, am I? Don't forget. So I'm telling them all what they're doing to me from 15. So at the Hesketh Centre, at this point, they should have been flagging the police, saying, what the fuck is going on here? What have you done to this woman? But they didn't do nothing.
Really?
They just listened to me. So on the third day of me going speaking to them, the fella's like, nah, it's not your fault, love. Like, are you mad? So when I went back to his house, he's going, oh, and what have they been saying to you today then? You're mad, are you? You're fucking mad. I said, no. I said, in fact, complete fucking opposite, mate. Well, wasn't allowed back to his house, was I, after that? So I went to go and get my kids on the Sunday. He opened the door that much and he went, you'll never see him again, you fucking cunt. Bye-bye.
Jesus.
Exactly.
It's a wonder you're sane. So why don't it send you over the top?
I know. Hey, at one
A
point,
lot of people couldn't handle listening to your story and what you actually went through. A lot of people wouldn't have been able to cope. It's so strange. Like he's completely he's almost tried to brainwash you. He's controlled you. He's imprisoned you. He's abused you. He's done everything, and there's nobody out there that is prepared to take a young woman's side of the story, and it's almost haunting.
yeah, well, I thought like the system was there to help people, and you know, but because I've been to this solicitor in 2009, I went back to this solicitor and I said to her, I said, I want to go. So in the January time when this happened, I went in for a residency order and he knew that I was doing this over the kids because I knew he'd play these games. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, no, we would do that.
I'd gone in for a residency order over the kids because I knew what he'd play and I knew the games he'd start. So anyway, so that's obviously happened there with the police. I've then going to have to go to court about a drink drive. No one's listening to me. I'm telling them all what's going on. No one's doing anything yet. I feel really bad as if I'm going fucking mental because, you know, do you know what I mean? No one's listening to me. I'm telling them all, no one's listening to me. So in a way, you're still just going to continue to abuse me. But because I put in for the residency order, I thought, oh, it might get, the family courts must sort this out for me. Please, God, they will. Please.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so anyway, we should have been in court in the August of that year.
What was that, 2000 and...
So it'll be 2013, yeah. 13. So we should have been in court.
7 years ago. 7 years ago.
Yeah, so we should have been in court in the August. So I was in an address, moved back to my own town, and then I've moved house again because then my sister, whose partner died when my nephew was born, who was the kid's dad's brother, she came back to Southport, so I moved next door to her. So I was living next to my sister, rekindled relationship from her being a young kid. She went to Liverpool and we hardly ever seen her again.
Oh my God.
So it was lovely for us. So it was like my sister come back and she was poorly. She had COPD. I mean, she's died now, God bless her.
Oh.
So I was looking after her in a way, making her meals, blah, 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 blah. You know, trying to get on with my life. But, you know, obviously everything was being difficult because he was making things difficult. So, of course, at some points, I did react. So if he had the kids, I did go out on a night out with my mates, which isn't that normal what most people would do. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So, you know. Anyway, we've gone to August time now. So we're in August of that year, building up to the court date, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm raising concerns for 8 months about my child and my ex-partner not looking after her, thinking that things are going on that maybe shouldn't be happening. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe men are abusing or young boys, but not knowing that it could be the same age group, but then it could be older people, because it had happened to me, so I wouldn't know. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could have just, you know, so I was concerned. I've got police logs, they're all here, I've still got them all. But what I did start to do in 2013, once they all did this to me, I started logging everything and I started recording them all, because I knew what they were doing to me. Well, once them police did what they did to me after him strangling me and took me off, I knew what I was playing with, to a point. Do you know what I mean? So,
You're
so
very
yeah.
strong. I don't know how
So,
it just seems so hard to believe that you coped through this. It was kind of like you're in almost like a war zone with all of this.
I'm war zone, yeah, without the bullets.
It's hard to believe. Really, it's beyond anything that people could. I mean, to think that the system is there and is not fit for purpose.
No.
Absolutely not fit for purpose.
Sorry, Al, I'll just take you back to 2013, that beginning bit there where that's when the social services
You've got
started.
about 5 minutes, yeah?
So so that beginning bits of 2013, after the arrest and this, that and the other, that my ex-partner with the crack of the door, never seen him again. That's when social services, that's when his sister works in certain environments that you might know things like this. Do you get me? In 2005, they changed the law that anybody, mother and father on the birth certificates have 50-50 rights. So that basically means that anybody can, so if you've split up and say the dad's got the kids, he takes them to school, mum can come and take them, but you know, and if dad wants them back, mum can say no. So basically you could have pass and parcel going off all across England and it'd be legal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So so social services became involved then, saying that I had to be supervised all the time when I had my kids. And we went through all this rigmarole, blah, 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 blah. Social services I'd gone back to the same solicitors that I was with beforehand, thought that she understood my case. Well, she did to a point. Social services should have done this report. They didn't do the report on time. They kept threatening me, saying that if I kept my kids or I was on my own with my kids and all this lot, that you know, the police would be called and blah, blah, you know, as if all this thing had happened, I'd never see him again, and you know what I mean? So I adhered to everything what they said, but because they didn't do what they should have been doing, my solicitor then advised me to keep the kids. The social worker had said to me that the police would be called and, you know, basically I'd be carted off. Well, I kept my kids and the kids stayed with me. So I know now, you know, at those points, I didn't have to agree with their terms and conditions. They were my fucking kids. They come out of me under common law. Do you know what I mean? So, but I did what they were doing. And then because they hadn't done what they'd done, my solicitor told me to keep them. But then you see, because all these things were still going on and no one was addressing the psychological abuse of my ex-partner, he was still continuing to abuse us. So I know we've only got about 3 minutes, and the next bit, Alan, maybe take 20 minutes whenever you're next free, because I don't really want to go too far into it, because this next bit's the good bit that I really want to get out to everyone.
It's very, very difficult to see.
But not now, and whenever. You know, it can be in 6 months' time. I don't.
No. We'll work it into another a program. But what I want to come to is it's very difficult, and people have got to try and understand. You can't sell your soul in just you know, like in a few minutes. It's just strange that you can't just sit there and tell a lifetime story in a matter of a couple of hours. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, oh, well, do you know, thanks, Alan, so much.
No, I have so much respect for you. Kind of knowing what I've been through and what I was brought up with, and there's some similarities, believe it or not, in what you've gone through to what I went through. And it's hard for people to try and comprehend. They don't realise how unfit the system is in this country and how disgraceful and diabolical that these people that are put in positions to look after others just don't do it. And
Yeah,
it's all totally wrong.
yeah, that's it. And I think what I was finding so harrowing is that I was a victim and then I'm trying to protect my child and I'm seeing things happening that is the same thing that happened. And it's just, do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that she was, you know, I'll go into that, but do you see, you can understand where I'm coming from, can't
Yeah.
you?
It's just, and I'm sitting and I'm listening to you and I think, how the hell, how did you cope?
I don't know. I just think after my kids, just kept dead buried with them. That's all what I did.
It's
And went
just,
to work.
you know, but people just don't understand the fact that, you know, you was kind of like cocooned by this guy.
Literally. I hadn't even hardly travelled to Liverpool to get the train on my own. You get me?
God. It's almost like being attached to a prison warden where you're handcuffed and you're
Yes.
not going to leave their side or by their side because you're interlocked with them for whatever period of time they choose you to be.
Yeah.
But thank you ever so much for coming on, and I hope we've helped get your story out there a little bit.
You know
You've
what?
been so brave to tell it, and for people to try and get in your mind to try and be that woman that you were actually, and things that you actually went through is quite horrific. And I have the utmost respect for you, and I thank you for coming on and telling your story. And yeah, I almost got a little tear in my eye for you. And that's how
No,
much respect I've got for you.
Alan, you know, what you've been through makes me sob, and what everybody, you know, all these people who were speaking, you know, and that's why we need to stop it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
You've
know,
got me watering my eyes now. I
we,
don't
we,
I
we
don't
want
like to show my emotions, but it just comes out of you. It's the rawness of it all.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I was so nervous this morning about doing that, but you know, just before I was about to do your show, my son came. So I think that gave me that lift to be able to say it in a way that, because it is hard. I find it so hard to say that I've been sexually groomed. You know, at one point I couldn't even get them words out. So for me to just say it and to speak the way I am is brilliant.
And for me as a person sitting here to try and ask that question is very difficult as well. So we've got to finish. We've got to say thanks very much indeed for coming on. And it's been
Thanks.
absolutely brilliant. Ting, you're an absolute star. And
And
I have
you.
the utmost respect for you. And I hope we can stay friends for a long time.
Oh, we're friends for life, all of us. Woo, woo.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for everything tonight. And God bless you.
Oh, God bless you all, and Sue. And
See you later. Trying to leave.